welcome to Asset Television News. I'm Emanuela Akwaya. First, the headlines. Federal government intensify efforts to boost economy. Troops capture Boko Haram food supplier. Air Force probes misfire into civilian crowd in Yobe. Now the news in detail. The federal government is intensifying efforts to boost job creation and revenue generation in the solid minerals sector through a new partnership between the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development and the North Central Development Commission. The Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, stated this while receiving the management of the NCDC in Abuja.
Alake said the collaboration is aimed at unlocking the vast mineral potential of the North Central region with a strong focus on mineral processing and value addition, explaining that over 300 artisanal and small-scale miners have been organized into cooperatives to curb illegal mining and integrate operators into the formal sector.
What we need now is to join our hands, put our hands on the plow, and translate these ideas into action. The North Central is really blessed with solid minerals. And from what I've discovered here, and if you had gone through maybe a little of what we have been able to achieve, I would say more than 60% or 70% of our achievements revolve around the North Central. Take the value addition policy, which we emphasize as part of our 7-point agenda that we enunciated when we came in 23. Now, that value addition policy seeks to stop the exportation of raw minerals out of Nigeria, to power the factories of other people. Change that paradigm into local processing. That's why that policy is local value addition. And I announced it myself that we will no longer be granting licenses to companies that do not show us the critical path towards local value addition, which means you come in, if you license, you have a site, it is rich in whatever mineral there. You don't just begin to ship out the raw materials. There is a terminology in the sector, they call it from pit to pot. Pit, which means they dig and then export. From pit to pot. So it's one of our major policies to stop that, such that factories will not begin to spring up. And of course, the multiplier effect, employment, development of the communities, the technological transfer and everything. And we became very serious with it. And at the last count, a lot of factories started springing up.
According to the minister, the government has also intensified enforcement with more than 300 illegal miners arrested, while about 150 suspects, including foreigners, are currently being prosecuted. Alake noted that the federal government's local value addition policy is already yielding results, with new mineral processing projects underway in the North Central region, adding that the policy has contributed over $2 billion to the nation's economy by promoting in-country processing of mineral resources, reducing raw material exports, and boosting industrial growth.
When you are restructuring and trying to put in the enduring structures, the dislocation will cause temporary pain. So people must react and shout, oh, easy. But if there is that resilience to go through the curve, as soon as you turn the curve, the manifestations of those policies will begin to show, and then life becomes more palatable, more livable, more enjoyable, more comfortable. And then the only way you can go is up. That is the best analogy. So you have a very critical role to ensure that you are not doing it for Ashiwaju or for government. that doing it for the nation. And your own names would also be written and etched in the sense of time, that when you were there, when you had the opportunity, you made your own contributions. And in fact, and this is my own guiding philosophy, your conscience will be clear. And you can go to bed and sleep. You don't have to make the material acquisition the watchword, because materialism is flippant.
The minister pointed out that the importance of collaboration between the ministry and development commissions, describing solid minerals sector as critical to Nigeria's economic diversification drive under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. He assured the commission of the ministry's full support and urged its leadership to prioritize transparency, strategic partnerships, and effective project delivery.
You know that we are here today to seek collaboration as North Central Development Commission. Might interest you to know, sir. We are created by an act of 2024, and just last year we were inaugurated, took over the office temporarily in Lafia, our headquarters, and we've been managing. But most importantly, we have realized based on our mandate that we are expected to also look at the mineral subsector. Why? Because the North Central geopolitical region is one of the regions that is, I don't think there's any region that can be compared to North Central geopolitical region in terms of mineral deposit, because we pride ourselves with massive deposit.
Earlier, the managing director of the NCDC, Cyrus Senil, said the visit was to explore areas of collaboration to drive sustainable development in the region. He proposed the establishment of a special purpose vehicle to accelerate investment and development in the mining subsector. Both parties agreed to set up a technical working committee to advance the partnership. The North Central Development Commission was established under the North Central Development Commission Act of 2024 to address infrastructure and development challenges across Benue, Kogi, Kwara, Nasarawa, Niger, Plateau States, and the Federal Capital Territory. Abuja. Mania OCB, Asset Television News.
The Supreme Court has fixed April 14 for the hearing of an appeal filed by David Mark, National Chairman of the African Democratic Congress, against the suit filed by Nafiu Bala, a former Deputy National Chair, challenging his leadership. In the appeal marked SCCV 180-2026, Mark is asking the court to grant an order saying the execution of the Court of Appeals ruling delivered on March 12. Newspoint Nigeria reports that the hearing notice was sent to the parties in the case on Friday through the litigation department of the Supreme Court. Emeka Uwite, judge of the Federal High Court, Abuja, had earlier fixed the same date for the hearing of the suit filed by Bala against Mark's leadership of the party. While both cases are scheduled for Tuesday, the lower court may step down the matter or adjourn proceedings pending the hearing at the Apex Court, in defense to the hierarchy of courts. The Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy and Spanish Navy ship, Bamforo, have conducted a joint maritime security exercise to improve operational effectiveness within Nigeria's maritime domain. The flag officer commanding Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Abdullahi Mustafa, revealed this in a statement on Sunday. Mustafa, however, said the exercise codenamed Exercise Coastal Grip aligns with the strategic vision of the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Idi Abbas, which focuses on building a capable, responsive, and mission-oriented Navy. The FOC disclosed that the operational areas covered by the exercise include fishery protection, visits, board, search and seizure, VPSS operations. Mustafa added that the exercise provided an opportunity to extract vital operational and tactical data necessary for reviewing and improving existing tactics, techniques, and procedures. The Nigerian police force has questioned the report by Amnesty International claiming that at least 1,100 persons were kidnapped across Nigeria within 3 months. Reacting to the report on Sunday, the first public relations officer, Anthony Placid, challenged the source of the data, insisting that the organization did not consult the police before publishing its findings. Amnesty International had, in a statement, called on the federal government to urgently tackle worsening insecurity, particularly in northern Nigeria, where it said mass abductions have become rampant. The organization stated that between January and April 2026, at least 1,100 people were abducted, mostly in rural communities and among internally displaced persons. It added that victims are often subjected to abuse, such as torture, starvation, rape, and forced participation in violent acts. According to Amnesty's Nigeria Director, Issa Sanusi, the scale of abductions is alarming and may even be underreported in some instances. Asset will be back after the short break. Stay tuned.
On Mining Matrix with Mania, we dig deep on solid minerals, steel development, energy transition, global mining market trends, technology, disruptions, conflicts, and opportunities in this sector. Join me every Wednesday at 3 p.m. on Asset Television to discuss, analyze, and proffer solutions to challenging critical issues in Nigeria's mines and steel development.
Welcome back from the break. Boko Haram suspect identified simply as Tijani Madu was apprehended on Sunday while reportedly on his way to purchase food for members of his group. A reliable military source told News Point Nigeria that Tijani is linked to the attack that resulted in the killing of Oseni Barma, a brigadier general, along with several other soldiers. Barma, who was the commander of the 29th Task Force Brigade under Operation Hadinkai, was killed on Thursday during an attack on a military base by suspected Boko Haram insurgents. In a video circulating online, Tijani Madu revealed that he was arrested at Mubadu in Borno State. The suspect, who spoke in Hausa with a deep Kanuri accent, admitted to participating in attacks on Benishek and Ngamdu, shedding light on the surveillance and movements of the group before and after the incident. The Nigerian Air Force says it has begun an investigation into claims of civilian casualties during airstrikes around Jili Market near Funchi Miram village in Geldam local government area of Yobe State. In a statement on Sunday, the Director of Public Relations and Information Headquarters, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ehime Ejudame, said it treats all reports of possible civilian harm with the utmost seriousness and empathy. NAF maintained that it remained firmly committed to professionalism, accountability, and transparency in the conduct of its missions. In an earlier statement, the Nigerian Air Force confirmed mop-up airstrikes in the Jili axis, but it did not state whether the civilian casualties were recorded. Several persons were killed and others wounded after the suspected accidental airstrikes at Jili Market in the Gedam local government area of Yobe State. The United States and Iran have failed to reach a truce deal after high-stakes talks in the Pakistan capital, with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying Tehran has refused to accept Washington's terms after 21 hours of negotiations in Islamabad. He said Iran chose not to accept our terms at the talks, which began on Saturday, adding that the U.S. needs to see a fundamental commitment from Tehran not to develop nuclear weapons. Vance said U.S. needs to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. Vance said during a ceasefire in the 6-week U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Sunday that no one had expected the talks with the U.S. to reach an agreement in one day. Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, the leader of Tehran's delegation in Islamabad, said it raised forward-looking initiatives, but the U.S. failed to gain the trust of its delegation in the talks. And that is the package at this hour. Do follow us on all our media handles for more news and programs. On behalf of the news crew, I am Emanuela Akwaya.